And then there's the one that happened on the field. 10-year anniversary
Oh my goodness.
of the kick six. On a day where, like, there's no way anything's ever going to top the kick six. There's no way you can find any more wild ending to the Iron Bowl than we've seen over the past couple of years. There's no way Auburn, who lost to the Aggies of New Mexico State, not Texas A&M the week before, we're going to be in this game. And Paul, 4th and goal, 31-yard line, Auburn about to end Alabama's season, and then Isaiah Bond happened in one of the great escapes we've seen in this rivalry's history.
And Matt, I know what the FPI said, and I don't want to be that guy, but I really wasn't even surprised because I saw it 2 years ago, almost identical. I mean, 2 years ago, they were playing a far inferior Auburn team. They were 23-point favorite. And it just, as the play developed, I was like screaming, like, why are they rushing 2 people? And they got what they deserved. It was a brilliant throw by the most maligned quarterback of the first 2 weeks of the football season, Jalen Milroe, and it was justice. And I don't need to go through Iron Bowl history. I don't think it's quite as significant as the kick six for one reason. The kick six was a 1 versus 4 matchup.
Yeah.
The winner of the game ended up playing for the national championship and really winning it. Auburn is limping into a bowl game, but it was just so amazing to watch. And Nick Saban has been put in a couple of situations this year, and I don't mean this to sound the wrong way because I think he's beloved by Alabama people, but he's becoming likable to even Alabama's rivals because I don't think he can believe what he's watching, and that's amazing when you consider his career.
Well, that's amazing when you consider this season. They are now out of nowhere, and I say out of nowhere, and it's been a slow build, so we shouldn't be surprised. But how many times from week 1 to let's call it week 6, we're like, Alabama's gettable. After the Texas loss, Alabama's got issues. Paul, it's November 26th. Alabama's 11-1 and playing in their 10th SEC championship game with Nick Saban as their head. I mean, how did we get here with this team that really has, I mean, other than maybe a Dallas Turner, Kool-Aid McKinstry, like the superstars that we're accustomed to aren't there, and here they are 11-1.
No, and what's remarkable is that there were so many near misses. I mean, none more dramatic than Saturday, but Tennessee was up big on them. A&M was up big on them. Ole Miss, I mean, there's 5. It's just like last year, except last year they split the 50-50 games. This year they just got it right, and there's no such thing as house money when you're Alabama, because Nick Saban on Saturday afternoon isn't just trying to get to the playoffs and maybe win another national championship, which would be unbelievable, but he's trying to stop his protege from eclipsing him in certain respects. Not overall, but just in the moment. I mean, you don't. Alabama fans love to call in and say, "Don't you dare say the dynasty's over." And that's the dynasty will never end for them as long as Nick Saban's the coach. Except if we're talking on January 10th and Georgia has won 3 straight, it's really hard to make an argument that you have a dynasty in that era.
Yeah, especially if Georgia gets them in the SEC championship game next week. We took a year off from that. Last year was LSU, and remember 2 years ago, Georgia was the greatest thing that ever put on pads. Alabama went in there, won the SEC championship. Georgia got their comeuppance in the national championship game. Can this iteration of Alabama go in and take down Georgia?
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to Hugh Freeze Friday afternoon, and he said the Georgia team he played in September, he said Alabama's better than that team, but that's not really telling the Georgia story. He said, I haven't talked to him since the game because I don't think I really want to talk to him right now. I'll give him a couple of days to recover, but I think he'll be the most interesting person to break that down because, I mean, Alabama is capable, I think, of beating anyone. But, Georgia has some injury problems. I mean, you could see that last night. They didn't play a couple of key players. Now, how banged up are those players, or was Kirby Smart being judicious?
Yeah, against Georgia Tech, who, give him credit, Haynes King and Brent Key in his first year as the head coach of Georgia Tech. They played well for the most part. I've said this about Alabama all season. I'll continue to say it. They're a boa constrictor. They tease you with life, and then they squeeze the life out of you at the end of the game. They did so again. So listen, here we are. The penultimate rankings come out Tuesday. I would imagine Florida State fans probably won't be happy unless the committee thought that their win against Florida was better than Washington's win against Washington State. All of this is to say it's going to all come down to next week. The Pac-12 championship is on Friday night, ABC. Winner of that one is getting in. And then we get to championship weekend. SEC champ, the one thing where chaos could become an issue is if Alabama were to pull off the upset against Georgia. I have argued with Mullen. I've argued with Galloway about this. I don't think there's any way in the world that they would leave Georgia out for losing to Alabama. Having one loss in the last game of the season, you might differ, but I think the Pac-12 champ will get in. I think Alabama and Georgia would both get in if Alabama won, and then I think Michigan would get in. And then you've got Big 12 left out, which would be the Texas-Alabama head-to-head. There's so much that could go wrong and right here in the same sentence with next weekend.
And that's interesting. At least as of this moment, I mean, we almost end the regular season almost exactly where we began it, because I think the top four schools were Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Alabama. We're not far off on that. Ohio State will slip down a couple, but it's as unpredictable as these games have been. The season has gone fairly predictably, and if you're a Florida State fan, you've already whiffed one time. You needed to make a statement against Florida. You didn't. Congratulations. You beat Billy Napier. See where that takes you in the college playoff world. Alabama, I totally agree with you. This is not SEC talking here. This is reality. Georgia has won 45 of the last 46 games. It's been the most dominant program of the last couple of years. I think they've gone from a good team at the beginning of the year to a great team. And I just don't want to hear gobbledygook Tuesday night about, they've got, this team's got 4 top 25. I mean, they're Tennessee last week, Matt, after losing 28 points to Missouri and 28 points to Georgia, I think they may have moved up in the poll or something. I mean, it's just, there's no rhyme or reason to this top 25.
Yeah, it'll be interesting what they do Tuesday. If you're a committee member, and if this comes down to the end, which we think the SEC championship will, I just don't know how you can be the number one team for this long and then suffer one loss and be left out.
No.
And I think that's the one place where we could get chaos is if Alabama pulls off the upset. Texas and Oklahoma State. I mean, Oklahoma State's been a good story, but Texas is the better team. I don't think there's going to be any chaos there. The one place where you're going to see a lot of angst is SEC championship, ACC championship, because I believe Pac-12 is already in with their winner.
Yeah. And you did a lot of ACC games. I mean, it's good football, but
bad officiating.
I don't see how they have a leg to stand on. I think everything that could go wrong for FSU has gone wrong. I mean, they needed Louisville to win and at least be a legitimate opponent, and they're not.
Yeah.
So try to sell that game as much as you can. And Matt, I'll be flipping on SportsCenter tomorrow, and you'll do it. And don't forget Saturday night from Charlotte,
ACC championship,
you'll do
10-2
Louisville.
I'm
going to be sitting there knowing that Florida State fans are just loaded for you, depending on the inflection of your voice.
Yeah, and I'll try to sell it as hard as I can. I'll give you I'll give you Danny Cannell and work done statistics. We'll talk all you want about Chris Ricks and all the history of the Florida State program. But what a wild weekend. What a wild finish to the regular season. 13 weeks of absolute fun. We will continue this next weekend.
Give me something I can feel. Let it sink